Welcome. A full house, like friggin' A. So I'm going to make a few opening remarks, and then I'm going to hand it over to Paul, and he's going to carry the majority of the session with Sherry and I providing anecdotes and real life experience and lessons as we go through this conversation with you. So firstly, thank you all for coming. It is humbling to see everyone sitting on the floor, and in here it is a gift beyond gifts to have you all here. So we're shifting from everything I talked about in my personal journey to leadership and the culture transformation that we're leading at Home Equity Bank. A little bit of context. What Home Equity Bank does is it converts the savings in your home into retirement income. In Europe, it's called equity release. In Canada, it's called something different. We are the only licensed bank in Canada that is 100% dedicated to serving aging Canadians 55 years and older. And we're about to build multiple products, from a pension-like product to living legacy type products, all with the mission to help aging Canadians age with dignity, independence, and empowerment, not only for themselves, ultimately for their families and for their communities. And as we talk about at Home Equity Bank, we consider ourselves a higher purpose bank. And as I talked about on stage, they're essentially, if you think sustainability, to have a truly sustainable planet, we need a world where humanity lives once again in harmony with nature, and we need to regenerate nature, and we also need a world that is both socially and economically inclusive, because we're experiencing the opposite, social and economic divide at unprecedented levels. So the fact that we only serve aging people, all of our clients are calling us during midlife crisis or beyond. They're calling us at a time where they've shifted away from their primary career and their children have grown, and they're now beginning to reflect on, can my children afford to buy a house? Is my pension from my company enough to live given the cost of living? Some can't put food on the table. Some have big mortgages. And many have a bit of savings, but not enough to sustain a quality of life. And as a result, their self-worth and their dignity erodes, and they call us at a very vulnerable moment in time. And then we hold them in compassion and care, our team does, and we provide a retirement income solution where they still get to own their home, and we are able to unlock savings for them to live a more empowered life. We're going to build a TV channel where we interview clients on their life transformation stories because they're so profound. I interview clients every couple of weeks on video, and we just left a TV studio where we interviewed clients to share their stories with Canadians, because they want what we all want, an inclusive world, and a world where people can age with dignity and independence and empowerment. It's a very special company, and we consider it a social purpose company. We're growing. We are in the top 10 banks in Canada. We are now number 10. Our financial ratios are among the strongest of the top 10 banks. And we are growing the fastest of all the top 10 banks. And with the potential to grow much, much faster given the exponential demand within society. So in order to embody what we do with customers and aging Canadians, we want to embody the same care and compassion and inclusivity with our employees, as within, so without. And we've been on a culture journey with Sherry as the head of people and culture. Paul is one of the partners with Zhimble Consulting out of Holland. And we've been on a journey together to shift our culture from a traditional fear-based hierarchical culture command control, carrot and stick, to a culture founded that doesn't eliminate fear, but catches fear and allows one to shift while in fear to a place of kindness, curiosity, empathy, understanding, which leads to inclusivity, which leads to a co-creative way of working, which is flat and more indigenous in its way, all aligned to the mission of helping aging Canadians age with dignity, independence, and empowerment. So that's a bit of who we are at Home Equity Bank. And I knew, given my own personal journey and career journey, that I couldn't be part of a team that didn't embody love and kindness at the core. And that I couldn't lead a traditional way. And never in a million years did I ever think I would find a company that had the fabric to be so inclusive and so kind and purposeful in what it does. And never in a million years did we think we would meet Paul and his colleagues from Zhimble to co-create this heart-centered, inclusive, co-creative, and purpose-driven organization of the future. So it's an honor to share it, not because we're doing an infomercial on Home Equity Bank. We're sharing it with you because we want this for all. We want this for all CEOs. We want this for all organizations, because every human being, every employee, and every client deserves it. And I will hand it off on the note that there's very few companies in this world that do not have the potential to be purpose-driven. And I mean higher purpose-driven. There are a few that are on the fringe that you would say no. But most, should they choose it, have the ability to align every one of their business practices and their culture to true sustainability. Social, economic, and planet, should you choose it. So we're on our journey, and we're looking forward to sharing and including you in the kind of leadership development and culture work that we've begun. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, David. Thank you. All right, so this is not going to be a one-way conversation the next 40 minutes. So we're going to ask you a few questions, going to ask you to do a few things. At some point, you'll need your phone, so we can have some polling and see what happens. So that's all very exciting. And also people live, they're 20 seconds behind, so sometimes I'll wait a little bit longer, okay? First, before we start, we are wired to connect. As soon as we feel safe, we want to connect, because that's our basic survival mechanism. Now we're going to do a short exercise that's going to give you an experience about what it means to connect. Very simple. There's no way of doing this wrong. So find someone that you don't know yet and make eye-to-eye contact. Now this may be a little bit awkward, but hold their gaze. Relax. There is no need to do anything. You don't have to make funny faces. There's no need to laugh. Just ease into the connection. Allow yourself to fully receive the other person. And allow yourself, as much as you can, to be seen. Thank you. And this might be a very simple exercise, but it's not always easy. And the more you are comfortable with who you are, the easier it is to hold space for someone else and to really connect. And Katie talked about co-creation and working together. That's what this needs first. We need to connect. Who are you? Where are you from? What's your story? What do you value in life? It's a very basic skill. You can practice all day with anyone. All right, so a few boring slides. First is, the purpose of the exercise that we're doing is to teach people how to shape their culture, consciously and deliberately. Because most of the time, culture ends up as a result of our behavior without us realizing how we created it. Does that sound familiar? So we are teaching people to consciously and deliberately create it. Have an intention to create the culture that you want first. Because, as it says, culture is always working on us. If I go to Italy, it takes me 1.5 days and I'll have dinner 3 hours later than I'm used to. Yes? So that's how it works. We walk into a place, we look what the customs and the routines are, and we copy. It's like a garden. It is always growing. If we don't tend to our backyard or garden, it will overgrow, it will become a jungle. The same with our culture. If there is no intention to create a culture, it will create itself. You will end up with things you might like, and you will end up with things you don't like. All right? So the goal is to become skillful landscapers of our culture. And there's a caveat here, but I'll come back to that later. So two or three definitions of culture. The first is the title. Culture is defined as how we do things around here. Not what we do, but how we do it. The second is the most quoted scientist in the area of organization culture, Edgar Schein. The thing I want to highlight here is that we teach new people walking in our culture through how we are, through how we behave, through what we value, what we find important, what we don't find important, the language that we speak, the food that we eat. And people just walk. How many people have walked into a new company or have welcomed a new employee, and when you ask them what's it like here, they'll say, well, just let me figure it out for a few weeks and then I'll know, right? So we teach people our culture. Subtle. This is not how we do things. This is how we do things. This is what's important. No, never mind that. And the second one, culture is the result of the values and behaviors of our leaders. That's us. And it is the result of the values and behaviors that are of the past leaders that are still present in KPIs and incentives and procedures and systems. So it's lagging behind. So if we want to change it, we need to dive into values and behaviors. And that's where it often becomes awkward. So this is how it works a bit. We start with, this is individual. This is collective. The lower half is what we don't see. The top half is what we see. So it starts with lower left is my values, my fears, my skills, my competences. And for everyone else, theirs, individual. They express themselves in how I behave, how I show up. Yes? Then, oh, there it is. It's a lot of clicking here. Then, if we put a lot of us together, we collectively shape our culture, which is our shared values. Listening to the keynotes on the main stage, we get a sense of the values of this country. Yesterday in the city hall, we get a sense of the values of this country. Nobody has to say anything, you just have to walk around and feel. And you get a sense of that part, which then again shows up there in what things look like, how we organize, how we structure, etc. Now, probably many of you have been in change programs before. And listening again to the conversations. Many of us are trying to change culture by starting there. We're changing our KPIs, we're defining our values, we're putting the values into desired behavior, and then you'll find them in your next year's appraisal. In the how. This is what expected behaviors. And then you get ranking. Basically, that's putting all kinds of sophisticated structures around you to influence you to change. The first question many people ask us always is, whatever you do, is that sustainable? So is that way sustainable? Feels a little bit like putting a camera on a highway and trying to control people speeding. Yes, we do hit the brakes when the camera is there, we know. And afterwards, we do whatever we want. So how do we make this sustainable? In the end, is by starting lower left. How many have made changes in their lives at the moment they truly, deeply realized, I need to change something? Health-wise, home, relationship, work, career, environment, etc. How many tried for a few years, but didn't work? Fall back. Me too. So the only way you really make changes that are irreversible is when something shifts there. When I became a father, I stopped going down ski slopes with 100 kilometers an hour because I had a sense that there was somebody relying on me in a different way than before. Recognize that? So, now I'm not saying we shouldn't do that part. We do need to change the collective things. We do need to change the goals and the KPIs and what we prioritize. But we often overlook this part. We don't go beyond defining behaviors. The other way would be just to ask someone, what is it? How's your work? What do you experience? What do you like? What do you don't like? What would you like to see change? Apparently, it's hard to ask those questions. So, this is what it comes down to. If you really, truly are embarking on changing a culture, you need to focus on the personal side and the collective side at the same time. And the personal side is interesting because we're all different. Different backgrounds, different history, different upbringing, different everything. So somehow we need to create a space where everyone can learn whatever they need to learn. This is what a caveat was. If I'm teaching you how to be landscapers, that means I'm teaching you. I know, you don't, and at the end you know. That doesn't work, because then I'm trying to change you all. And that's what we're often trying to do. Change others. We're fixing the problem outside of us. And yes, I've tried, and probably you've experienced with partners. Does it work? Anyone have the magic silver bullet? Kids, parents, neighbors? If I would check your senses, if I'm saying, I am, in the next 5 minutes, going to change your behavior forever. Forever. What's the reaction? What do you feel? Skepsis. Someone started laughing before I stopped speaking. It's like, you need more help. So that as soon as I run into something I don't like about something else and have judgment, I'm lost. I'm overlooking, there's something in here I don't like, and I'm accusing someone else of. So I need to get up here to do the next. And then I'll come back down. Can you switch over, Paul, please? Great. Another experiment. So, for a minute, we're going to use the analogy of an iceberg for us as human beings. All right? So, that's better. This is our iceberg. That's the waterline. So we see most of the ice. Most of the iceberg is underwater, and about 15% is above. So what do we? If this is a human being, what do we see about human beings? A bit louder, please. Appearance, yes. What else?
Behavior.
Yes, exactly. Appearance, behavior.
We see 5% of who they really are.
Yes, exactly. So that's plus or minus 5%. Yes, that's what we see. It's not very good handwriting. Let's make it a bit thinner. All right. So think about this. What drives our behavior? Values. Thank you. I need to go red. What else? Emotions, absolutely.
Interpretations.
Interpretations. Yes. Let's go. Wait. Thoughts. I missed one here. Parents.
Yes.
Parents, yes. So they are outside of this iceberg, right? Somewhere here. Pushing. Intuition. Thank you. Let's go purple. Experience. Is that in or outside? Inside. So that's your personal experience. And we have a collective experience. So yes, so this one is inside, experience, somewhere here.
What about society? That would be your maybe external experience.
Absolutely. Society. Yes. What else?
Oh my God.
Culture. Thank you.
This is good. Sherry.
Expectations.
Thank you.
Expectations.
Sense of belonging.
A sense of belonging. So then we're down here somewhere. Yep, beliefs. Then we're going back up.
We're in flow.
Psychological safety. Here. What else?
The sense of not belonging, so feeling like a fear, outsider, self-doubt.
Yeah, it's all in here. Self-doubt. Fear in itself. Yes, all in here. Any more?
Libido, sex drive.
Yes. Category needs. And with all the physical things like health and yes. Any more? Sorry? Instinct, yes. So, thank you. So if this all, and there's a lot in the iceberg. It's not all groups answer the same. Some people answer a lot outside of the iceberg. So that means something too. They feel more that life is happening to them. Apparently you are very inside out, guided. That's nice. So, how does this change? How does that change?
An icebreaker.
Okay, so a metaphorical icebreaker. So all the big significant moments in your life, they're pretty icebreaker. The good ones and the not so good ones, yes. But how about, all the change programs, KPIs, desired behaviors, that's like pushing down on the iceberg. That's a bit like this. Putting pressure here. And what does that do to an iceberg? Maybe just this a little bit, at max, but it will come back, right? But there are these icebreaker moments in your life that you don't come back from, that you change like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. It doesn't go back. And things like moving out of your parents' house, receiving your first paycheck, moving to a different country, those are these moments that, first getting a driver's license and driving into the world, those moments change you forever. And so the trick here is, if we want to sustainably change culture, how can we create a space for people in which they can become aware of whatever they're experiencing, then see this I don't like, and then make a different choice. The biggest enemy of culture change or personal transformation is lack of awareness. Because if I'm not aware, I have no clue. Oblivious. What do they say? The oblivious are blessed? Something like that? Ignorance is bliss. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Can we go back, Paul? Please? Thank you. Amazing. So that's the personal journey. And that is something that we, in corporate life, or in many organizations, have a hard time with. Because we would really like to control the outcome. Right? Why not? So we set goals in advance, we set KPIs in advance. Why not ask someone, how good can you get? What would we achieve if we would put every talent and skill that we have behind this mission? So imagine the mission that Katie was talking about. And these 400 people, how good can we really get? That's way more inspiring than telling you need to have 75% of success on your outgoing sales goals. Right? So, we're going to do an exercise. So get your phones. Oh, first, we're going to introduce this, right? Sherry. So going back to June 2024, where were you and where was the organization?
So June 2024, we had an outgoing CEO who had been with the company for over 25 years. Wonderful man, kind, very, very smart. And we were feeling as an organization, while we'd always been purpose-driven, we knew we wanted more. We knew that there was more. We were growing at a beautifully steady pace, actually very enviable pace, but we weren't capturing all of who we could be. And we had no idea how to get there. We had no idea what that meant, from how do we evolve our strategy, how do we think differently about our business, how do we show up and be different in order to achieve that next level of growth. And then Katie came into our organization, and well, you've met her, so you know the inspiring character that she is, and we knew that our ambition to grow and be more could be achieved. And it was very soon after that we were introduced to Paul. So I would say that we were moving from a traditional, we're a bank after all, traditional, hierarchical, siloed organization, and not yet knowing what we were going to become, but knowing and having a thirst for it to be different.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so, starting to talk about culture, culture is not a physical phenomenon, so we can't measure. We can't say, put a thermometer in and say we're now 34 on a scale of trust. Doesn't mean anything. Even talking about trust in different countries means different things. So a way to make culture more, I don't want to say measurable, but measurable, is an exercise like this. So if you take out your phones, go to menti.com, put in that code, then we're going to do an exercise. So the first question, do we have an entry screen? Can we go to the first question? Yes, great. So the first question is, what do you value in life? What do you value? What values do you hold? So think about, on the good side, things like honesty, and integrity and trust and family and friendship and financial security and purpose, empathy, compassion, etc. You can use your own words. And on the sometimes limiting side, think about being liked, think about judgment, fear, what else? Self-doubt, trying to be the best. That can be positive too. Think about these things and put them in. You don't have to do 5, you can do 1 or 2 or 3, whatever you want. Here's where I pause for people online. All right, let's see what happens. Wow. Amazing. Honesty. That was my first, sorry. Kindness, family, trust, empathy, work, purpose, community. Amazing. Anything, what else? Playfulness, safety and freedom, responsibility, peace, love. All right. So this is what we value collectively as a group. So if you look at this, if you feel into this, we can do amazing things with these people, right? Would you agree? If you want to build an organization on these values, regardless of what's on the wall, we're going to have a great time. It's going to be great to be there. It must have a great purpose. Impossible with these values to not have a great purpose, right? It's not much. Oh, hard work, yes. It is hard work sometimes. What else? Wow, okay. Great, thank you. We'll capture this somehow and post it. So then the next one, now this is going to be, for some people it's going to be a sharp 90-degree turn or a U-turn. So we're going to go to the organization that you work in for a second. So tomorrow, the day after, you're going back to work, and then we're going to answer the same question. Oh. Paul, can you click this? Okay. So put down a few words that describe from your experience what it feels like to work in your organization. Again, there are positives, and there may be limiting ones. Things like collaboration, cross-departmental collaboration is positives. Things like teamwork, again, friendship, feels like a family. Or on the downside, maybe silos, kingdoms, information hoarding, these things that you don't like. Long hours, hierarchy, or maybe higher purpose. And there's a lot of compassion and forgiveness. All right, let's see what happens. collaboration, friendship, purpose, compassion, autonomy, hard work, silos, community, fear, trust, kindness, pressure. All right, so it's still very positive overall, but it's shifting a bit, right? We see some cracks here. And the question I always ask is, how come the people with the values we had just before create this? What's happening? Are we perhaps not always the best example of our own values? When we're under pressure, when we're triggered, when we're scared, when we don't feel good enough. These things. And so can we then create a culture that Katie talked about that's okay with this? Often when one person feels under pressure, the next one thinks, ooh, there's something wrong, so I better step up too. Chaos. Yeah. Unlock your potential. Great. I'd love to work there. Interesting, right?
You do work there.
Oh, is there? Can be fun too. So this is a way, and we'll do the next question in a sec. This is a way of making culture more tangible. If we put this on the table, we can actually have a conversation about this. What do you mean with pressure? When? How? How can we get the pressure out and go back to what do you think is necessary? Okay, last question. So what do you feel your organization at the moment, where it is in time, and you need for this organization and its purpose to flourish? Do you need more trust? Do you need collaboration? Do you need a purpose? Do you need a challenge? Do you need to learn something? What do you need? What do you think is needed? Do we need more alignment? Do we need more teamwork? Do we need less hierarchy? Do we need to work together better with external stakeholders? Do we need to take better care of our health or our mental well-being? Is the balance between work and life gone? Work and home? What do we need? What do we think we need? All right, let's see what happens. We need trust. We need collaboration, we need purpose, alignment, teamwork, transparency, communication, inclusion, care. It's similar to the personal values, right? It's similar to the things that we valued. Ideally, we would all like our values to be reflected in the place that we work or anywhere we go, to be a mirror of ourselves so that we feel this is a good place to be. This is where I can be myself. Vulnerability. Less time on work. Nobody wants anything limiting. There's nothing here that says fear-based or we need more hierarchy or more blame. It's an open door, but still, we often do not realize in interaction with other people that everyone, most people, get out of bed in the morning to contribute in a positive way. Sometimes we misunderstand, either because I am stressed or the other person is stressed. And when they're stressed, often I get stressed too. So this exercise shows that if we have these three clouds as a discussion piece on the table, we can actually become quite good at creating alignment about this is what we are and this is what we would like to change. And then we can start talking about how. But now we know what. All right? Thank you for putting this in. Great exercise. So, let's skip this. So this is how we approach culture change. What's the strategy? What's the plan? And first and foremost, it is about me. It's about practicing personal transformation. If I don't, I'm trying to change the other person. So it's about me. You are primarily here to teach me something, as you are all here to learn something from each other and maybe from me. But if I don't adopt a learning mindset, I'll do this, and then it's my truth. The challenge here is in any situation that you feel somehow reactive, so you resist it, you judge it, there's a slight awkwardness. Our brain is hardwired to try to fix the problem outside of me. Hardwired. It's just like danger. When someone walks in the door shouting something, everyone goes, you have no control. But if I can pause, if there's no real danger, if there's just someone saying something, if I can pause and I can respond from a different place, I can get my brain to engage. What do you mean? What is that about? And go back to non-reactive. That's the whole exercise of the top left. Become aware of when am I reactive, when are my fears triggered, and how can I let go of them? And the culture that Katie talked about of kindness, of holding space for someone who might be triggered, is the place where someone can become aware of anything of themselves without feeling not good enough, or there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with anyone. Sometimes fear just takes over. Second is then, because we are working in organizations, in teams, to form a collective. So to create healthy team dynamics. How can we make that top left one a team effort? And become good at creating alignment about what we want to do, but also how and when and how fast and who do we need. And then there's all the collective things. So the collective patterns that we hold, the stories that we tell. Walk into any organization and listen. What do people tell each other about certain topics? And sometimes there's topics that everyone complains about. Example, I worked for European headquarters of a Japanese mother company. And all these people were complaining about Japanese people. Too slow, they don't understand the European market, etc., etc. And so I asked these executives, what is it that you are trying to convince me of about the Japanese? And so they're slow and they don't, the whole list. And I told them, the only thing I'm getting is that you don't understand anything about Japanese culture. Because it works completely different. Go there, read books, immerse yourself. It's so far away from what we are used to in the Western world. But if you go there and you do immerse yourself, it's amazing how A CEO has a 50-year vision. I heard a lot of people talk today about a long-term vision. We can learn something from the Japanese about that. All right? Anything that you can add about the journey?
Okay.
Both. So this doesn't mean anything without the stories, without the real life experience.
I can share a story, and I have his permission to do so. So our chief financial officer, very accomplished CFO, long tenure in financial services, gentleman who was quite hierarchical in his belief of how his role needs to show up in an organization. And he's one of our team members, and we went on this journey around vulnerability and creating a space for each other to really show up and be our whole selves in a very safe and positive environment with Paul's support. This person was invited to, through listening to all of our stories and the sharing of vulnerability that we all went through, he was invited to take a look at what was it about himself, what his persona that was having him show up at work in a particular way, and how was that serving him? Was he bringing his whole self to work, and did he believe that he couldn't bring his whole self to work? Like work, in his mind, work was different than his personal life, and that was creating some inconsistencies, I think, for him and how he was and how he was being with all of us and within work. And through this collective personal journey we've been on, he has done a lot of work, and he's integrated many aspects of himself, and he's showing up in a completely different way now. He's brought lightness and joy and collaboration and co-creation, and he's actually a champion of our culture journey. He shared with me just last week, he said, I used to always just think about the future. What do we need to do next? What do we always need to do next? How do we achieve the next thing? And now he's more in the now. How do we keep our culture alive? How do we create even more positivity for our organization? He's actually a culture champion for us now, and we all affectionately refer to him as our chief fun officer, which I would not have guessed 12 months ago. There's no way. So so I'll stop there because just give them the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. We do have to get you to the main stage in about 5 or 7 minutes. The journey of the chief financial officer, there are versions of that with every individual on the senior executive team, where an environment of kindness and empathy and safety was created to the point that they shared things about themselves that they had never shared before, especially in a professional environment. And as they shared aspects of themselves, and each person gets to choose how far they go, because it's ultimately about their safety and protecting their safety. But some shared traumas. Some shared just profound experiences with their peers and incredibly emotional experiences. You could watch the trust build in the room as it happened. And the dynamics between peers were used to be silos and suddenly became like water flowing. They would talk to each other about business issues they would never talk to each other about, and they would just solve them from a place of listening to understand and a place of empathy. It's like, I see you and I'm now listening to you differently than I might have before. So we've seen this happen in every person on the senior leadership team. We've now seen it happen in the executive committee, which is about 35 people large. We went from behind the team, I won't get into the details of the program, we launched a program to never ever lose an opportunity to help an aging person find dignity, independence, and empowerment. and that advocating for that client, not in silos, but working horizontally in the organization is what we wanted, then that escalations of these opportunities are embraced and celebrated, and exceptions to the way the rules of the company were celebrated as learning opportunities, as a laboratory. In 1 month, we were behind business plan by 20%. The next month, we had the second best month in company history because people rallied around the mission, and they rallied around the idea of working together horizontally with an umbrella of trust, with an umbrella of kindness, holding everyone in safety. We now hear stories, and their stories were from clients, were before. We're hearing more and more and more stories from clients feeling the compassion of the organization, feeling impact in their lives, wanting to share the stories publicly. It's really quite profound when you change the energy from friction or fear or anxiety to the energy of kindness, curiosity, and empathy, and how it cascades and permeates through an entire organization. It works. We are now, a year ago, we probably had 2 big strategic projects on the go while running the business. Today, we probably have 8 to 10 strategic projects on the go. Everybody's rallying around them, and we're running the business. And yes, we've added resources, but not to the order of magnitude. And again, these projects are happening because they're not happening in silos. They're not happening in formal structure. They're happening in a much more organic way within the organization and with pace. And when something goes wrong in a project, someone 3 layers into the organization who's in stress because they do not want to let somebody down, because they never wanted to let their parents down, we know that person's wiring, and we watch for their behavior and their stress behavior, and we do check-ins with that person, and we provide resources and support to get the project on track, but ultimately to make sure they feel psychological safety so that their stress behavior doesn't come out. So it does work.
And yes, the organization is becoming more feminine in its energy. So there is more empathy, there is more co-creation, and there is more working together. And so the way to go about that, also, again, back to personal transformation, is that means I have to become 100% comfortable with my feminine energy. That's not how I've been brought up, and that's not how I've been educated. I was 25 years ago, a hardcore engineer. So 25 years fast forward has made a big shift. But the balance between these 2 energies has the effect of all this improved performance. But we have to all solve it in here first. And by default, the effect we have, is different, less fear-based.
Great. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Katie.